After 50, changes in brain health can feel frustrating, personal, and difficult to explain. Occasional forgetfulness is not the same as dementia, yet the difference deserves careful attention. That uncertainty makes miracle food headlines especially tempting. Fear makes simple promises attractive precisely when the real answer is usually more complicated. But no biblical food can diagnose, cure, or guarantee healthy brain aging. Scripture records foods in history, hospitality, agriculture, scarcity, and daily life, not as modern prescriptions. The Bible never ranks foods by their power to prevent cognitive decline. Modern nutrition can still help us ask a practical question without twisting the text. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Biblical Wellness HQ. Today we examine 7 foods named in Scripture that may support healthy brain aging. We will separate evidence from exaggeration and tradition from treatment. We will also distinguish observational associations from proof that one food caused an outcome. Stay to the end for a simple way to combine them in real meals. First, however, we need to understand what memory changes can and cannot mean. Brain health reflects far more than the contents of one plate. Normal aging may slow recall, especially when attention was divided at the beginning. Sleep, movement, medication, stress, illness, and overall eating patterns can all matter. Poor sleep can weaken attention before information ever has a fair chance to become memory. The strongest approach begins by looking for causes, not chasing a single ingredient. Hearing loss can resemble forgetfulness because the brain never received the full conversation. Food can support healthy brain aging, but it works as part of a pattern. Получить солнце влияние на набрание водного веса. Depression, thyroid disorders, vitamin deficiencies, infections, and medication effects may also contribute. That pattern emphasizes minimally processed foods, sensible portions, and consistency. That is why a new change deserves assessment instead of shame or self-diagnosis. It also leaves room for personal medical needs, allergies, culture, and appetite. Sudden confusion, facial weakness, speech difficulty, or severe headache requires urgent medical care. With those boundaries clear, we can begin with number 7. Once medical causes are addressed, daily habits become the ground where food can actually help. Number 7 is fish. Fish leads the list because its evidence belongs to an overall dietary pattern, not a biblical formula. Fish is a familiar food in the gospel accounts. Fish appears as ordinary food, livelihood, hospitality, and provision around the Sea of Galilee. That reference establishes historical presence, not a medical promise hidden in the verse. From a nutrition perspective, fatty fish supplies omega-3 fats within a heart-healthy pattern. Salmon, sardines, trout, and herring are familiar modern sources of EPA and DHA. The benefit comes from ordinary nutrients and food structure, not sacred or supernatural power. These fats are structural components of cell membranes, but eating them is not a memory treatment. A practical approach is simple. Serve baked fish twice weekly when appropriate. Evidence is strongest when fish replaces heavily processed meat rather than merely adding calories. Remember the boundary, choose lower mercury species, and respect allergies. Pregnancy guidance, mercury exposure, anticoagulants, and allergies may require individual advice. Used wisely, fish can earn a place in the pattern without becoming the entire plan. For most adults, one modest serving can anchor a meal without dominating it. Number 6 is olive oil. Olive oil comes next, but its value depends on what it replaces and how it is used. Olive oil is woven throughout biblical agriculture and meals. Oil in Scripture illuminated lamps, anointed bodies, marked abundance, and enriched ordinary meals. That reference establishes historical presence, not a medical promise hidden in the verse. From a nutrition perspective, extra virgin olive oil contributes unsaturated fats and polyphenols. Modern studies often examine Mediterranean dietary patterns, where olive oil accompanies vegetables, legumes, and fish. The benefit comes from ordinary nutrients and food structure, not sacred or supernatural power. That makes it misleading to credit the oil for everything the complete pattern may accomplish. A practical approach is simple. Use it in place of butter. Use a measured spoonful for dressing, roasting, or replacing solid fat in familiar recipes. Remember the boundary, it supports a pattern rather than reversing memory loss. Calories still count, and more oil does not automatically produce more protection. Used wisely, olive oil can earn a place in the pattern without becoming the entire plan. Its practical strength is making vegetables and legumes satisfying enough to eat consistently. Number 5 is barley. Barley shifts the discussion from isolated nutrients toward the health of blood vessels. Barley is one of the grains named in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy names barley among the crops of the land, reflecting agriculture rather than medical instruction. That reference establishes historical presence, not a medical promise hidden in the verse. From a nutrition perspective, whole grains support vascular health and steady meal structure. The brain depends on a reliable circulation, so cardiovascular habits also matter for cognitive aging. The benefit comes from ordinary nutrients and food structure, not sacred or supernatural power. Whole grain patterns are associated with better cardiometabolic health, but association is not a guarantee. A practical approach is simple. Replace refined grain with intact barley. Hulled barley retains more of the grain, while quick cooking versions may be more processed. Remember the boundary. It contains gluten. Anyone with celiac disease must avoid barley because it contains gluten. Used wisely, barley can earn a place in the pattern without becoming the entire plan. Begin with a small portion in soup, salad, or breakfast and adjust for tolerance. Number 4 is lentils. Lentils offer a different route. Inexpensive plant protein wrapped in fiber and minerals. Lentils appear in the Genesis account of Jacob and Esau. Genesis uses lentil stew inside a story about hunger, urgency, and a costly decision. That reference establishes historical presence, not a medical promise hidden in the verse. From a nutrition perspective, lentils provide folate, fiber, and plant protein. Folate supports normal cell function, while fiber helps the wider metabolic pattern around the brain. The benefit comes from ordinary nutrients and food structure, not sacred or supernatural power. No trial shows that one bowl of lentils restores lost memories. A practical approach is simple. Build a vegetable-rich lentil soup. Pair lentils with vegetables, herbs, and olive oil instead of excessive salt or processed meat. Remember the boundary. Kidney or digestive restrictions may change portions. Increase legumes gradually if digestive symptoms have limited them in the past. Used wisely, lentils can earn a place in the pattern without becoming the entire plan. Canned lentils can work too when rinsed and chosen with attention to sodium. Number 3 is almonds. Almonds concentrate useful fats and vitamin E inside a very small serving. Almonds are named in Genesis. Genesis names almonds among valued products, while Numbers describes almond blossoms symbolically. That reference establishes historical presence, not a medical promise hidden in the verse. From a nutrition perspective, nuts provide unsaturated fats and vitamin E. Vitamin E protects cells from oxidative damage, but supplements have not become a universal dementia solution. The benefit comes from ordinary nutrients and food structure, not sacred or supernatural power. Food studies also struggle to separate nuts from the healthier lifestyles of people who eat them. A practical approach is simple. Choose unsalted almonds. A practical serving is a small handful, preferably unsalted and without a sugary coating. Remember the boundary. Tree nut allergy requires avoidance. Dentures, swallowing difficulty, and allergy may make nut butter or complete avoidance more appropriate. Used wisely, almonds can earn a place in the pattern without becoming the entire plan. Use almonds to replace a refined snack, not simply to add calories after it. Number 2 is grapes. Grapes illustrate why the form of a food matters as much as its biblical name. Grapes and vineyards recur across Scripture. Vineyards in Scripture can represent agriculture, celebration, judgment, labor, and abundance. That reference establishes historical presence, not a medical promise hidden in the verse. From a nutrition perspective, whole grapes add polyphenols within a varied diet. Dark grapes contain polyphenols, yet human cognitive evidence remains limited and mixed. The benefit comes from ordinary nutrients and food structure, not sacred or supernatural power. A laboratory mechanism cannot tell us how much meaningful benefit a person will experience. A practical approach is simple. Eat the fruit instead of drinking juice. Whole grapes preserve water and structure that juice removes or compresses. Там были стили и много категорий активности. То есть, сколько коротко предпринимает, самое главное. Remember the boundary. They do not prevent dementia. People managing blood sugar may need to consider portion size and meal context. Used wisely, grapes can earn a place in the pattern without becoming the entire plan. Alcohol is not required for brain health, and starting wine for this purpose is not recommended. Number 1 is pomegranates. Pomegranate earns attention for its polyphenols, but it also attracts exaggerated marketing. Pomegranates are named as produce of the promised land. The fruit appears among the land's produce, and later in decorative religious imagery. That reference establishes historical presence, not a medical promise hidden in the verse. From a nutrition perspective, their polyphenols add variety to a plant-rich pattern. Small trials cannot establish that pomegranate prevents or treats dementia. The benefit comes from ordinary nutrients and food structure, not sacred or supernatural power. Promising biological signals remain hypotheses until larger human studies confirm meaningful outcomes. A practical approach is simple: scatter arrows over yogurt or barley. Use their yields as fruit, texture, and flavor, rather than medicine disguised as dessert. Remember the boundary. Juice is concentrated and may interact with individual goals. Juice delivers a larger amount quickly and may not suit every glucose or calorie goal. Used wisely, pomegranates can earn a place in the pattern without becoming the entire plan. Так же, как правило, pomegranates не будет лечиться внимание. Medication interactions are individual, so persistent questions belong with a pharmacist or clinician. Now step back from the countdown and look at the whole table. The 7 foods now make sense only when they stop competing for first place. Build half the plate from vegetables or other colorful plant foods. Vegetables create volume, variety, fiber, and the base of a repeatable meal. Add a practical protein source suited to your health needs and appetite. Protein can come from fish, lentils, yogurt, eggs, poultry, or another appropriate choice. Choose an intact grain or legume more often than a refined side. Barley or another intact grain can occupy a smaller quarter of the plate. Use olive oil and nuts as accents, not unlimited health foods. Olive oil and almonds work best as measured accents that improve flavor and satisfaction. Keep fruit whole more often than juiced, and respect the concentration of dried fruit. Grapes and pomegranate can rotate with other whole fruits instead of becoming daily obligations. Water, regular movement, and a predictable meal rhythm strengthen the foundation. A short walk after meals supports circulation, mobility, glucose management, and sleep. Change one repeatable meal first instead of rebuilding your entire diet overnight. For 1 week, improve a single meal rather than attempting a perfect total transformation. Track how the pattern affects your real life, not just how persuasive it sounds. Record the meal, sleep quality, movement, mood, and any digestive or glucose response. Consistency usually matters more than a perfect day, followed by 6 abandoned days. The goal is a pattern you can repeat calmly, affordably, and safely. Seek professional guidance for sudden confusion. rapidly worsening memory, stroke symptoms, depression, hearing loss, or medication effects. Book an assessment when memory changes interfere with bills, driving, medication, cooking, or familiar routes. Do not stop medication or replace prescribed treatment because of a food video. Bring every prescription, over-the-counter medicine, and supplement to their review. Kidney disease, diabetes, allergies, swallowing problems, and digestive conditions can change food choices. Ask whether hearing, sleep apnea, mood, thyroid function, nutrition, or medication could be contributing. Supplements are not interchangeable with foods, and higher doses are not automatically safer. Do not assume a concentrated extract is safer or more effective than the original food. A sudden or severe symptom deserves timely medical attention, not another recipe. Call emergency services for sudden neurological symptoms rather than waiting for dietary changes. The lesson is not that 7 ancient foods guarantee healthy brain aging. No ranking can turn these foods into 7 shields against dementia. The lesson is that familiar whole foods can help build a wiser modern pattern. Their value is quieter. They can replace more refined, salty, or heavily processed choices. Scripture gives the historical setting. Science helps define the modern boundary. Готовлю сдать его внешние птицы на каналистов. That boundary protects both faith and science from claims neither one actually makes. Choose one food from this list and build it into one balanced meal this week. This week, choose one realistic substitution and repeat it often enough to become familiar. Tell us in the comments which one you already use most often. Subscribe to Biblical Wellness HQ for ancient wisdom, modern science, and practical healthy aging.